And welcome back, everybody, to the Podcaster Nation. That's right, I said welcome back because I know you were just listening to our stuff and you came back because you wanted more. And I don't blame you, okay? You're a podcaster more than likely. You're listening to this program. You want more. We have more for you. We got a great guest today. Going to be able to give you guys all kinds of cool advice. He's got a great story. Before we get to that, though, I got to tell you, this is the podcast that is for podcasters. It's about podcasters and it's done by podcasters. My guest, of course, is a podcaster. That's right. You cracked the code. Folks, this is the place where we all come together and lift each other up. We're there for each other. We help each other out. This is the place where the rising tide raises all ships. So let's get sailing and meet our guest today. Please welcome to the show the host of the Jody Mayberry Show. That's right, Jody Mayberry. Jody, how you doing?
Rory, I'm doing great. It's so good to be here. And I'm glad you just started right off with the Jody Mayberry show because what a clever title, right?
It's nobody else can take it from you, man.
Yeah, well,
100%.
it's great to be here. I love talking podcasting. I've been doing it for 11 years now. I actually recorded my first episodes 12 years ago and then just drug my feet for half a year before I finally released them and launched a show. But 11 years now podcasting, and I absolutely love it. It is one of my favorite things to listen to, one of my favorite things to record, and the chance to join you and talk about it. I'm just having a great day.
I love it, man. I love that you came here with that attitude today. It's great. Absolutely fantastic. Well, I know you've got a bit of a story, and you've come a long way from where you were to where you are in terms of, jobs and stuff like that. Why don't you just give everybody a good idea of who is Jody Mayberry, what are you about, and what brings you here today, brother?
Well, believe it or not, what brought me here indirectly was being a park ranger. I used to be a financial analyst at a commercial bank. I showed up at work every day, wore a shirt and tie, measured interest rate risk. That was my big thing, which is as exciting as it sounds, measuring interest rate risk. Well, then one day I just decided, nah, I'm giving you a short version of the one day. I decided to fulfill a boyhood dream and become a park ranger, which I did. I was a law enforcement park ranger for 8 years. Then I left that, went back to school, got an MBA. I learned a lot of leadership stuff. I still love parks. How can I use what I just learned to connect back with parks without going back and being a park ranger? And that turned out to be a podcast, the Park Leader Show, which I recorded my first 6 episodes in 2013. And I thought, oh my goodness, these are not good. I don't like the sound of my voice. How many people think that before they start?
Right.
And I held on to them. And then finally, April 2014, I launched the Park Leaders Show. And it has been tremendous. That show is still going. It's a it's a podcast for park rangers and leaders in parks and conservation. Well, that show led to another show. I'm going to give you the short version because I have a feeling we'll get into the longer version later. That led to me doing the podcast Creating Disney Magic with Lee Cockrell. Lee is the retired executive vice president of Walt Disney World. And once you do a podcast with someone high profile like that and you do a good job, you get other people that say, "Hey, can you do for me what you did for him?" Well, that led to a lot of other podcasts. At my peak, I had 10 podcasts going. Right now, I only have six. So
Holy
little
cow.
light, right? Yeah. And over the years, I counted a few months ago and I had surpassed 2,600 episodes. So it has just
Wow.
been, that's all shows combined. It's just podcasting has just been fantastic. Everything that I do now has been built on the back of podcasting. So I'm a big fan of it, and I just love podcasters, people that are willing to put in the work and put themselves out there. So I'm in the right place for a good conversation today.
I missed that in my research, man. You have ten podcasts going right now?
I think I have six going right now. At
Six
my
right now.
peak, I had 10
I
at
see.
one
We had
time.
10
Yeah.
before. Do you want to give a shout out to all six so I make sure at least the folks know what all six are?
Oh my goodness. I'm going to have to count this on my fingers, I think.
Okay.
Well, there's the Park Leader Show,
Okay.
the Jody Mayberry Show, Creating Disney Magic, World at Work, Morgan James Radio. I feel like I'm going to forget one and then I'm going to, uh, um, in the front row, in the front row. There you go. So there's six.
Wow.
There.
And those
Oh,
are all going.
yeah, all going. And a newer one. This one is the newest of them all. So I almost forgot one called Shut the Back Door. So there's seven podcasts going right now.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So we got to go back for a minute. How often do you post on all these podcasts?
Most of them are weekly. A couple of them are less frequent than that, and one of them is daily. But the addendum to that is it's daily, but only while my son is in college. So it's summertime, he's home, so it's not no episodes during the summer, but when he's in school, it's daily. So in the front row is a show. My son just finished his sophomore year in college. When he was a freshman, I started a daily podcast that's meant just for him. It's on all the podcast channels. Anyone can listen to it. But that's one of the things that makes it unique. It's a daily show intended for an audience of one person, and that's it. I don't care if
Cool.
anyone else listens to it. It's meant just for him. It's available for anyone to listen, but he's the intended audience. And I've learned something through that when you get so specific that you're trying to just talk to one person, you end up talking to a lot of people because the messages are so narrowed down and specific that it just ends up being helpful to other students that listen. And I don't promote that show, I don't market that show. I just do it for him and other people find it and listen to it. So it's pretty neat how that has worked out.
That's cool. I mean, I'm a dad too, and that's a really, really neat idea to do that just for one. So other people can listen though. It's not a private, line or anything.
No,
It's
it's not
it's a
private. It's
podcast.
on
Just yeah.
Apple Podcasts, it's on Spotify,
Oh wow.
Audible, wherever you would listen to podcasts, you'll find
Neat.
it there. And it's
Very neat.
called In the Front Row because I knew this was just going to be a private, not private, but a show just for him. The very first message was sit in the front row. And so I just called the show In the Front Row.
Too cool. I've never actually heard that done before, and as a dad, I just think it's one of the coolest things I may have ever heard. I'm like,
Well,
that's awesome, man.
yeah, well, good. And I know no one wants to hear from their father every day. So half of the messages are from me and half are from other people.
Ah,
So it's been a really broad perspective on what someone of his age should know about life in college and life in general, getting along with people. And when other people give messages, I don't edit it. It's whatever, even if I don't agree with what you say, I just do it because that's part of what this is all about. Just getting life advice from other people, success advice from other people. One time somebody used a curse word and I just to be funny, I talked over that. He so I think I it's kind of funny. It was the other person talking, and then all of a sudden you hear my voice say stuff, and then back to the other person's voice. Other than that, I don't edit it. It's just whatever advice people give to him. So it has been a really fun podcast. Like many things that are also rewarding, it's also been a pain in the neck because producing a podcast every day is not as fun as it sounds. And it probably doesn't even sound fun. And it's not that fun. So it it's a lot of work, but they're very short, 1 to 5 minutes every day. That's it.
that is so cool. That really is. Okay, quickly, what are the other ones about? Just if you can give us a little breakdown, just so everybody has an idea.
All right. Well, creating Disney Magic is about leadership, management, customer service. With I do that one with Lee Cockrell. So he was the executive vice president of Walt Disney World for 10 years. A lot of experience in leadership management, customer service. The Jody Mayberry show is mostly about business, mostly about marketing. But when you name a show after yourself, you can talk about whatever you want. So it's a bit of a variety show because sometimes I'll have guests, sometimes I don't. Usually the guests are people that I already know. So it's kind of a look behind the work that I do and the people that I do the work with. And Shut the Back Door, that one is about security in the healthcare industry. Morgan James Radio is about book publishing. World at Work is about hiring and creating good cultures in a workplace. Oh gosh. See, that's the thing when I have to blow through all of them. So what I'm doing right now, I'm pulling up my own website. How pitiful is that? That in order to remember them, okay, the Park Leader Show, that is about that is about leadership in parks and conservation. So the intended audience is park rangers, like I was myself. And I think that got us through all seven. And if you go to my website, there's also a couple more shows on there that are not currently active,
Okay.
but they were really good shows like Come Rain or Shine and If Disney Ran Your Life. Those are still listed on my website because they were great shows. So just because we don't do them anymore, I didn't take them down.
Cool. All right. Good deal. I mean, at least people have an idea of where to look if they want more Jody Mayberry than just the Jody Maberry show, So that's cool.
Yeah,
Very, very cool.
that's
And
right. And then
yeah.
over the years, I've done shows for real estate agents, shows for pharmacists, shows about travel writing, shows about sales. So it just depends. I've worked with a lot of good people to create podcasts.
That is cool. That is cool. I asked you during the pre-interview, we were talking a little bit about, kind of like who is your target market, who do you work with, that sort of thing. And you brought up some Disney executives, I think it was, that were retired. And these are all folks that you know from networking all the years you've been doing this. How does that work? I mean, how does the business end of your podcasting empire here work?
Well, look at it this way. I'll give you a story that let's say you had 30 to 40 years working in corporate America or corporate life. Over that time, you created so many stories. You've learned so much. There's so much you can teach other people. But after 30 years, what do you do with all of that? You're now done with your corporate career and you know you want to continue to help people. But where do you begin? What do you do? Well, that's where I come in. I work with the former executives to basically go through their whole career and figure out what stories to tell, what lessons to teach, what words to use, what audience to reach, because it's a lot different. You can't these days you can't finish your career and just hang out a shingle that says Disney or Universal or Apple or whatever good company. That it used to be if you were former Disney executive, that's all it took. You could line up business that way. Well, now there's so many former Disney executives out there doing similar work. There's so many former Universal executives. There's just there's more people now. So you have to be very specific about what you do, who you serve, how you're going to help an organization. And it is a very different world being a corporate executive where you're very good at what you do. And then there are people to take care of everything else. Now you go out on your own and where do I begin? What do I do? So I help my team and I will help from everything from the messaging, creating presentations, website, helping write books, all of that. So it's just a matter of taking, I'm going to use it the brown number of 30 years of great experience and packaging it in a way that is marketable, sellable, and consumable to other people.
Now that sounds really simple, but you and I both know it's not. So, like, how do you go
Yeah.
about doing that with somebody? Like, how did you go about doing that with your Disney execs? And if you can, because I don't want you to give away the secret sauce of what you do or anything. People need to contact Jody if they want to find the stuff out, but
Well,
still,
yeah,
anything
please,
you can
please
share.
do. Yeah. So there's two ways that this happens. One is there are times where during a career or towards the end of a career, one or the other, an executive might realize, oh, I want to do this, this meaning speaking, consulting, writing books when I'm done. And they will start documenting stuff and they will perhaps have something they're already known for. Okay, so that's different. Now we just need to start getting it out into the world. The other is someone may have 30 years experience, their career is winding down, and now that they realize, okay, I think I can help and I want to speak, I want to write books, I want to do all of that. But I've never thought about that until now. I don't have a message, I don't know what to do. Now that can take some time to because you have to comb through an entire career and look for just the right things. But once you find it, everything you do from there can be built upon it. It can be a book. Then that is the platform for all your presentations. When you make podcast appearances, well, now you know this is my thing. This is what I'm an expert in. Therefore, when I talk on a podcast, it will tie back to this. So it is a different process if you're leaving the corporate world having not prepared or not thought of this is what I'm going to do next. This is what I'm going to be an expert in. And everybody in their corporate life had something that they were an expert in that you can then really dig into it and then add the right words, add a little bit of flourish, put it in the right package, and now that's what you're known for.
Nice. Everybody has a story to tell, right? Everybody's got a story. Right.
That's right. Everybody has a story, and that's such a big piece of it because you have to connect to people in the right way. And so finding the right stories to tell is very helpful.
Right. I know that that's just from reading about you. I know that's something that you kind of pride yourself on is your storytelling ability. Is that kind of what has led you into this business and also led you to have all these podcasts?
Well, so I'm going to back up into being a park ranger and tell you where that came from and why it's
Awesome.
so helpful.
Yeah.
So I was a financial analyst before being a park ranger. I mentioned that. I'm very good at spreadsheets and numbers. That's what I was trained to do as a financial analyst. Now I become a park ranger, and even though I was a law enforcement ranger, we still had to give interpretive talks. And I had never given one. I could tell some stories, I guess, but I had never thought about interpretation. So I just looked at what another ranger was doing. Mac Mickelson, he was the poster boy for park rangers, just 6'4", big muscular guy, looked great in a uniform, and everyone looked up to him. Well, he had a campfire program that he would do called the many hats of a ranger. He would put on a hat, he would talk about the work we do while wearing that hat. Great program. I didn't know what to do. I hadn't been a ranger that long. I didn't have a chance or an opportunity yet, I felt, to create my own content for a program. So I copied Mac, but I didn't want to outright copy him. I just wanted the essence of it. So I came up with a program called Ranger Pants, which I get now how silly that sounds. And I would hold up a pair of pants and talk about the work we do while wearing those pants. And I was not doing well. I felt like I was struggling. The audience wasn't into it. And about halfway through, a 10-year-old boy raised his hand. And I thought, oh, great. At least I have a question. And he said, Can I go now? Oh my goodness. It was brutal. And
Ouch.
it finally it ended. And I said, that is never happening to me again. I'm going to find out what's going on with interpretation and I'm going to get good at it. And I did. I studied it. I talked to other park rangers. I I was recommended the book called Interpreting Our Heritage by Freeman Tilden, which was the first book ever written about interpretation and is like the manual that everyone turns to even now, all these decades later. And there are interpretation involves three things. I've added a fourth for two reasons. One, because I needed something that started with a P, which you will understand in a moment, and it's a way to kind of make it my own. So, interpretation involves a story, and then why it matters to the audience in front of you, not why it matters to you, it's why in front of you, an action that you want them to take. So that's normal interpretation. And if you've been to a zoo, a museum, a park, probably even a tour bus, you have seen interpretation in action. You have felt it in action. Well, SWA, I wanted something that started with a P so I could form the word swap. Because when you are good at interpretation, you are swapping your enthusiasm for the topic to the audience. And that P is provoke because I feel you also have to provoke people towards the action you want them to take. Freeman Tilden said the chief aim of interpretation is not education, but provocation. So that's where the P for provoke comes from.
Hmm.
Because if you come to a park, I don't want to just educate you about what's here at the park. I want to provoke you to care enough about it that you come back to the park or you go home and learn more, or when the time comes, you donate to parks or vote for parks. So that's what provoking is about. I tell you all of that to say that's where the storytelling element came in. I showed up as a park. Really, I showed up as a financial analyst wearing the uniform of a park ranger. And then over time, I was deliberate about learning how to interpret. So now I learned that the formula and I apply it on podcast episodes. I apply it when I'm on stage. If I'm writing an article, I can apply it there. So that's that's where it came from is learning interpretation. And storytelling is a big part of interpretation because you have to figure out how to tell a good story, what story to tell, so then you can eventually call people to the action you want them to take and so on. So that's where it came from is just having a complete failure in my first campfire program and getting called out by that 10-year-old boy in front of everybody.
That is awesome. Any successful podcaster has to have some kind of moment like that where they just sort of, wanted to shrink into nothing and got just crushed, and they come back from it. So congratulations on taking that and coming back from it. A lot of people would have said, I'm terrible at this and just quit.
Well, I'm glad you said that because anytime you're in those situations, you have those two choices. You can say, I completely failed. I'm never doing interpretation again. And I will acknowledge there are times that could be the right choice. I'm
Right.
never doing that again. Or you can say, that is not happening to me again. And the next time I'm talking to a group of campers around a campfire, I'm going to captivate them and they're going to want to get out on the trail and learn more. So you can do two things. I'm never doing it again, or that's never happening to me again.
Nice. Well, it appears that you made the right choice in, continuing forward since you're having the
Yeah, I
success
hope
you're having.
so.
And you've built a business on this. You work with executives, like you said, retired executives and people who are no longer in their corporate environment and want to move on. And you also work with businesses, it sounds like. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. Now, we do that in a couple of ways. One is I help with with messaging, with customer service, that sort of thing. So it could either be marketing or it could be operations and service related. Also, we teach workshops with which I do through Lee Cockrell and I started the Cockrell Academy. And through that, we do workshops for customer service, for leadership, for management. So that's one of two ways. It could be like I just did a fabulous project up in Alberta on a cultural center where they needed to get the right messaging together for raising the funds and the whole campaign they're going to do around the cultural center. Just a phenomenal project. It was so fun to work on that. So that's one aspect, and then the other is getting in and helping with creating a good customer experience. And how do operations tie into that, right? Because you can't just focus on this is what service is and then not deliver it through operations. So the those are those are how I work with the businesses.
Nice. Nice. The podcasting came first, of course. And then from all your podcasting, you built the business that you now do, correct?
That's right. It all started with podcasting. Yes.
Right. That's beautiful. And so then as you kind of move forward, you're marketing your podcasts, all except for the one with just you and your son, the front row. You don't market that one, you said.
So, yeah, that's right.
Right.
Although I guess that's what I'm doing right now.
Technically, yeah, if people jump on that, you're going to know they heard it here. So I love that. But so you're marketing your own podcast and then you're also marketing the business. Usually I'll ask podcasters, hey, what do you do to market your podcast? We'll kind of get into that just because people want to know. But you have it kind of twofold. Do you use one to market the other as well as promoting them, or do you have some kind of dual promotion for the both? How do you go about marketing all the various aspects of your business?
The way that I look at it, a podcast is a tool to market me and the business. That is what it's for. I want people to get to know me. I want people to like me. I want people to find out more about what I'm talking about or even working together. So for me, the podcast is a tool or a road towards eventually working together. And if you just learn from me on a podcast and find it entertaining and that's it, that's fine too. I'm glad I could help you learn. Glad I could be entertaining. But hopefully, eventually, someday you'll want something that I offer, even if it's a free resource. You'll want to come and see me about something like that. So for me, that's what the podcast is. Even with creating Disney Magic, after 550 episodes and millions of downloads, creating Disney Magic is has always been a tool to promote Lee Cockrell's books, Lee Cockrell's speeches, the workshops we do, the Cockrell Academy now. It has always been a tool for that. So that's how I've always looked at podcasting. It is just a promotional tool for me or whoever I'm doing the show with.
Nice. Okay. That's a very business-like aspect to looking at podcasting, of course. Um, do you do anything specific to market the podcasts, or is it just they are the marketing piece, and if people know about them, they know about
The two ways that I we have marketed the show is through our email list and from well, this is a great way to market. You've learned that
them? Hmm.
podcasters listen to podcast listeners listen to podcasts. That sounds obvious, but it is much easier to get someone who's already listening to a podcast to listen to your podcast than to get someone who doesn't listen to a podcast to listen to yours. So being a guest on podcasts is a great way to get people to listen to yours. The other is speaking opportunities are always a great way. With Lee Cockrell, we can even see it when he gives a big presentation somewhere and he mentions the show on stage. We'll see downloads associated with that. So it always ties in. It's just like a big circle or a cycle that just keeps upon itself. And podcasting can get you speaking opportunities, and speaking gets people interested in your podcast. And so it all ties together. But I've I also hesitate in the aspect of having just a business focused mindset on podcasting, because it's done so much more. When I started the Park Leaders Show, I never knew it would lead me to working with Lee Cockrell. I never knew it would get me speaking opportunities. I just wanted to be involved. I just wanted to have good conversations. But I will tell you the the best. I wonder if I should save this for later. I was going to give you my favorite thing about podcasting. It's not business related, but I can tell you that later as well.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what, I mean, that was one heck of a teaser you just threw out there. So, let me go ahead and throw that out there then. I'll just ask my corny question right now. I always ask the corny question, and the corny question is, what is it about podcasting that you love the most? And what is it about podcasting that you just really despise the most? So let's hit it. You're ready to answer that question. I'm ready to hear it. Our listeners are on the edge of their seat. What do you
Oh
got?
man, I'm glad you asked. And see, this is why that worked well, because I almost answered the question before you asked it. And what if I had given you that advice and then you asked the question, and then I'd be like, well, now I have to come up with something completely new because I already gave it. All right, my my favorite casting is, there is something. This is why I tell people, start a podcast, even if your own mother won't listen to it. Do it anyway, because something special happens to you when you have to show up every week with something to say. It's pretty incredible. You start to learn what you believe in. You start to learn how to talk about it. You start to learn how to tie your thoughts in with stories. You learn how to pull lessons from stories. You become a better speaker. You become more comfortable talking about yourself. I mean, the things that happen just from showing up every week to do a podcast is pretty incredible. And and then if you do an interview show, the people that you meet because you are showing up every week
Yeah.
to talk to them and ask questions, it's just wonderful. So that's the great thing about podcasting. The thing that I don't like, that's what you asked, right? What
Mhm.
don't I like?
Yeah. What's the thing that you can't stand the most?
The thing that I can't stand the most is that, I enjoy podcasting so much. I don't think there's anything that I can't stand about it. But sometimes you have felt this, I'm sure, having more than one show, that sometimes you're just like, man, I'm tired. It is a tough week, and now I have to come up with some content. And I'm worn out, and I have to do it anyway. So I wouldn't say I can't stand that, because you just show up and do it anyway.
Right.
But there are some weeks where I'm just like, come on, give me a break. I'm just so beat down this week. And that's why you record ahead if you can. Try to stay 2 or 3 or 4 weeks ahead, because then you can have those bad weeks and take some time off. But on my end, with 7 shows going, if when they all come due at the same time, where like, okay, I have no content for any show this week, that can lead to kind of a bad week.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I love that answer, to be honest. I don't know if I've even heard that answer before all the times I've asked this question. So usually it's editing and promoting is like right there next to it. But um,
Mhm.
for me personally, doing multiple shows and as many episodes as I'm doing, I feel that so much, what you just said. And it's true. People think that this is so easy. Like we just, hook up on Zoom, we grab some coffee and we just sit and chill and, we do nothing. And oh, it must be nice to have that as your life. They have no idea what goes into this, before and after.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right, because it's a performance, right? Where I know we say we're having a conversation, but really it's a performance, because the the Jody Mayberry that's not performing is not nearly as interesting as the one who's with you today. Because the normal me, I mean, I might be just sitting outside with my dog or sitting on the couch reading a book. Not nearly as interesting. That's so that's the other piece. Like, yes, we say we're just two normal guys having a conversation. It's true to some extent, but we're also performing because if we weren't, you wouldn't find the show nearly as interesting.
Yeah, that's true. No, I didn't know you were going to give away all our secrets and stuff now.
Yeah.
Okay. I just said, don't give away the special sauce. And you're like, oh, hey, it's a performance. Come on, man. I'm like this all the time. What are you talking about? Yeah, I wish, if only.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just talking about me, I guess.
Oh, I'm just kidding. So, listen, I love the way we went back to that question. So, thank you for rescuing my corny question there. But what we were talking about before we kind of deviated from that, your favorite part of the podcast and whatnot, the doing what you do for businesses, and then doing the podcast that you do. It seems like even though there's sort of a an umbrella over the top of all your stuff that is business related, there's still there's more personal stuff also in some of these things. I've heard you have some pretty good one-on-one conversations on your show. The Jody Maberry show for sure. That I'd listened to a few of them on. And so, how do you balance that where you want to keep it interesting to regular people, but also cover the business that needs to be covered for the folks who are in business? How do you walk that line?
It ties back into what you brought up earlier, and that's stories, because that's what people are interested in. Yes, I want to learn from the guests, but I want to hear good. That's what people want. They want to hear good stories, and you can learn from good stories. And that I think that's it. You people that are good at as guests on podcasts have figured that out. That if don't tell a lesson without a story, don't tell a story without giving a lesson, something along those lines. And I if a guest hasn't figured that out, then I help guide them there, probably even without them knowing. I certainly don't tell them that, but if they have a good story, well, then I'll dig into it and try and pull a lesson out. And if they just have some really good advice, then I will try and poke a story to come out of that good advice. So I think that's it. That's how you walk the line, is you just understand if someone's listening to your show, yes, they want to learn. They also want a good story. And so you just try to find that, because then, and that's why it helps that almost everybody that I have on my show, I already have a relationship with in some way, because I already know a lot of the stories. I already know a lot of what they know. And I don't need to prove that I know them well enough that I already know that. My only role as a host is, I guess there's two roles. One is to make the guest a superstar and feel like, all right, that went really well. And the other is to have someone that has listened to my show say, wow, I'm really glad I listened to that. Those are the two things I have in mind as I interview somebody.
Nice, nice. Now, I'm assuming, I mean, successful business, everything you've built, all these podcasts. I'm assuming though that when you were sitting there as Jody the park ranger, you weren't thinking this is where you were going to be years later. Is that close?
Not at all. I started listening to podcasts in 2006, and it was not until 2013 when I recorded my first episodes that I thought I could end up being a podcaster. And it never crossed my mind ever that I would end up working with Disney executives and partnering with Lee Cockrell. And all of that just happened. But that's kind of how luck happens, right? You're just really prepared when an opportunity comes. And then it looks to other people that you were lucky. Well, maybe, sure. but I was also prepared for it. And that's why I got that opportunity.
Absolutely. That's what luck is, right? When preparation meets opportunity. 100%.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. That's
Love that.
right. I think people get way more opportunities than they realize. They just weren't prepared for it.
Ah. So going with that, being prepared for it, I'm curious if you could, go back and talk to that Jody the park ranger. Is there anything you would tell him? Hey, watch out for this. Hey, make sure you do this different, or anything like that, or would you just keep your mouth shut and go? You're going to enjoy the ride.
I think I would mostly leave him alone because things turned out okay. And if that Jody Mayberry, who was a park ranger, had known some of the tough times between then and now, he might have said, "You know what? I'll just keep the uniform on and be a park ranger." Which was a wonderful job. Being a park ranger is as great as you think it would be, unless you don't like the outdoors. Then it's probably as terrible as you think it would be. But I loved it. And maybe if I knew some of the challenges, some of the hard things that were coming, I would have just left the uniform on and stayed a park ranger and been happy with it. And things turned out really cool. So maybe I would have left him alone.
It's great. I appreciate you taking that question. I didn't prep you for that or anything. I just figured, if anybody can handle it, Jody can handle this one. So I love it. I really do. Jody, I love what you're doing. I love the way you do it. You got a great energy about you, man. You really do. As you look at everything that's happened, as you look at the podcast you put together, um, what do you have for podcasters? Okay, a lot of folks are not where you are yet. So, what can you say to podcasters and say, I guess, what is your best advice, to those folks who are not quite where you are?
I think the best advice you can hear from anybody is just keep doing it. And the reason is most podcasts never make it past 10 episodes. And I've worked with enough podcasters where I think I realize what causes that. But just keep going, get past 10 episodes and then things start to happen. And I've helped a lot of shows get launched. I've helped a lot of podcasters and just realized that eventually it pays off, even if it's only to yourself. I know a lot of people that are in a couple hundred episodes and still say, "Oh, the podcast has never grown where I wanted it to, and I feel like giving up a lot." Well, sure, so do I. But what matters is that eventually someone will write you an email and tell you how much a particular episode mattered or tell you how you inspired them. And then you'll realize, oh my goodness, this was worth it. And it really is worth it. And I've even helped a lot of podcasters. I've put some resources in place to help podcasters. Maybe we can mention those on the
Oh
way
yeah.
out. But that's I think that's the part is be okay with not being good for a while because the great thing about it, when you launch your show, no one's listening anyway. It doesn't matter that you're not good. Go back and listen to the first few episodes of the Park Leader Show. I had no clue what I was doing. They're still out there all these years later. I had no clue what I was doing, and I was not very good, but I did it anyway. And now, 11 years later, I've got to speak at the World Ranger Congress. I've got to speak to the National State Park Directors Conference. I 2 years ago or last year, it all starts to blend together. But I spoke at Michigan State Parks in service, 700 park professionals, and I got to come and talk to them all because of a podcast. The podcast led me to work with Lee Cockrell and all the great work we've done. You just never know where it's going to go. If I had drawn out and someone said, draw out exactly what you want to happen through podcasting and it'll work out, I wouldn't have drawn it this big because I had no clue what was possible. But I just showed up and I did it. And I did it when I wasn't any good because eventually I got good. And then eventually park rangers would write to me and say, I listened to the advice on the park leader show and I got a promotion, or I kept having turnover, but your episode about this topic, well, now our workplace environment is better. Or I became a park ranger because I discovered the park leader show. And that's just one show. It's just amazing. So I think figure out the hardest part and then get over the hump and just keep doing it. There are there are people that are going to benefit from what you have to say. And maybe they've heard someone else say it, but it's the way you say it with just the right story that finally hooks them and makes all the difference in their life. So that I think that's it. Just get over yourself. Yes, you're not going to do good in the beginning. Yes, you will not like your voice in the beginning. Do it anyway. And I used to, when I started, I thought my voice sounds terrible, but it's distinctive. I thought that was bad. I get so many compliments about my voice. So one of the things that I thought was a reason I should not podcast is one of the reasons people actually like about me podcasting. And I've gone on to narrate audiobooks since. So podcasting helped me get over, gosh, I don't like my voice, to, hey, I've got a good voice and now I'm going to go narrate some audiobooks. So I just go for it. The little things you're worried about, most people will never even notice about you.
Great, great advice. Love that. And yes, certainly. I wanted to kind of maybe wrap with that, and you just alluded to it. You help a lot of podcasters get going, get better, that type of thing. You've got courses on this stuff. Tell everybody a little bit about what you do have to offer people, how you can help, and where they can find that.
Well, for starters, if you thought this was interesting, you like what I have to say, find the Jody Mayberry show, listen to that. If you're interested in podcasting, go to jodymayberry.com. Right there on the front page, there's a place where you can enter your email and get a guide called Podcast Magic. It will help you launch a show and get your first 10 episodes going, because 10's the hump. Most people never get there. So those are the easy things you can do. Those are no cost. There are also 3 courses. So I realized that there's 3 aspects to being a great podcaster. And I created a course for all of them. So there's Podcast Magic, which is about how to have a great podcast, what goes into it, and not really the technical stuff. Some of the other things we've been talking about, what makes a great show. So there's Podcast Magic. That's one course. Podcast Guest Magic is another course. How to be a great guest on a podcast. If you have liked how I've been on this show, well, you can learn how to be a great guest. And then the third one, this one is almost done, but it will be soon enough, called Podcast Interview Magic, and it's about how to do a great interview, which, by the way, comes in handy whether you're a podcaster or not. Just understanding how to interview, how to have a great conversation, that sort of thing. So that's it. A whole suite of courses: Podcast Magic, Podcast Guest Magic, Podcast Interview Magic.
Beautiful. And those are all available on the website.
Yes, jodymayberry.com. That's where you go.
Gotcha. And that'll be in the show notes, folks. Just so you know, no problem. Definitely keep it in there. Jody, I appreciate all this so much. And I love the story you have. I love where you are and what you're doing. I appreciate anybody who's out there helping fellow podcasters. It's what I try to do, and I don't think there's enough of it. So I applaud you for doing that and doing what you're doing. And yeah, brother, I just appreciate you coming on the show and sharing all this today.
Well, thank you. It was a great conversation. I'm so delighted you asked me to come and talk with you about podcasting. It's one of my, just like you, we could talk about this forever. Just go on for hours.
I'm sure we could. I'm sure that we could. All right. Like I said, thank you, man. I appreciate you so much, and it's been great.
Thank you.
All right. Folks, that's been another episode of the Podcaster Nation, where we just set them up, we knock them down. This is this is the podcast that's about podcasters. It's for podcasters, and it's done by podcasters. And the podcaster we had on today is all about helping other podcasters, folks. I'd like to issue a challenge on behalf of myself and Jody. If you're out there and you're an accomplished podcaster, help somebody. Put your hand out, reach out, give somebody a tip or a trick, and just share your knowledge, like we've been doing here today, and like we try and do every day. Folks, this is the place where we come together and we rise each other up. This is truly the place where the rising tide really does raise all ships. So keep sailing.